another edition of the Contractor's Secret Weapon weekly podcast with your hosts, Dave Negri. This program is dedicated to helping contractors, remodelers, painters, roofers, roof cleaners, and business owners in the construction industry gain an unfair advantage over the competition. This program supplies you with information that the competition doesn't even know exists. This session brought to you by ContractorsSecretWeapon.com.
Before we get into the conversation, I just want to do a shout out to our sponsors who help promote Contractor's Secret Weapon and just some of the things that they have in store for you, our listeners. Hey, is your phone ringing enough? Do you want it to ring more with highly motivated and qualified buyers that contact you, the contractor, directly? No more waiting for the phone to ring. Just answer that phone. Best Home Services leads are dedicated to making your phone ring with motivated buyers that call you directly. There's no obligation to talk with them. Just go to ContractorsSecretWeapon.com/money. Fill out the form to secure your discount on the setup fee. Do it today. This special will not last forever. Check them out at ContractorsSecretWeapon.com/money.
Running a small business is no easy task, and I should know because I had a service company for almost 10 years. I am the founder of a software called RadiusBomb, and it's unbelievable. And for all the listeners of Contractor's Secret Weapon, we have a special offer for you to check out. If you want to send hyper-targeted, laser-focused, super personalized postcards to your exact prospects using a map while sitting in your underwear, then go to ContractorSecretWeapon.com/RadiusBomb, and we'll give you your first 100 postcards for free. Just go to ContractorSecretWeapon.com/RadiusBomb.
Hey, this is Dave Negri with Contractor's Secret Weapon. I am so glad to be here today. I hope that you are enjoying our new series that we're putting up from time to time in our daily podcast. Today, I have a really fun guest that I got a chance to talk with. His name is Lyman Montgomery. And are you distracted? Person who tends to procrastinate? I think we all do from time to time. Well, productivity coach Lyman Montgomery can help you be more focused, productive, and profitable while maintaining a healthy work-life balance. Also, Lyman is a widely sought-after speaker, author, trainer, and coach with a thriving coaching consulting business. He will share with listeners the thought that power of focus on the right things, they can live extraordinary life without distractions. And I love Lyman's key phrase, or one of the things I picked up in his book, that we are addicted to our distractions. And we talk a little bit more about that in the interview, our talk today. So help me welcome Lyman Montgomery. Hey, Lyman, it is so good to have you with us today. I'm excited to have you with us. I really am.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks, Dave, for having me.
And I know that we were going to talk about your new book, which is Focus Driven Lifestyle. But basically, we're going to talk about the thing that nobody wants to do: procrastination.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So you sent me your book over, and I got halfway through it, and it was really great. But one of the key things, like I said earlier, that it wasn't, I don't even think it was in the first chapter, it was sort of like in the preface, it was that you said we are addicted to our distractions. That is profound.
Yes, we are. And what happens is, and they've done brain studies to show that whenever we have reinforcement of a behavior, the brain releases a chemical called dopamine. It's similar to Pavlov's dogs, where he would ring a bell and they begin to salivate. Well, what happens is we get addicted to the sound of our notifications or our social status, looking at the numbers. I remember I was working with a client, and he was in sales, and he would sit at his computer and literally get a jolt of energy every time the sales jumped 2 to 3%. I mean, he literally, every time he heard a little ding, it's sort of like getting that PayPal notification. So yes, we literally get addicted. And what happens is, early on, it's okay. It's exciting. It's fun. We're looking at growth. We're looking at expansion. But over a period of time, it becomes an addiction, because when we try to move away from it, it brings us back. It's similar to the person who's late to work and you ask them, you say, well, what happened? I forgot my cell phone. Well, but why were you late? Well, I had to go back to get my cell phone. It has become the new appendix of our bodies that we literally have that virtual cord that we cannot cut.
Mm. Oh, I agree. And I think it's with social media, it's become another addictive personality. Let's put it that way. I know I find myself, and I'm not really a social guy, but if I post something, I want to see if somebody responds to it.
Yes. Especially, imagine this, especially if you posted an article or even if it's nothing more than a quote or something, all right? And you notice all of a sudden people are sharing that quote. And you look and you have 150 views. You say, wow, that's not bad.
Yeah.
A week later, it mushrooms to 1,500. Now, what happens the following day? You're like, oh, my God, we went from 150 to 1,500. Keep going, keep going, keep going.
Yeah.
And once it begins to level out or begins to decline, you'll find yourself feeling depressed. You're like, well, what did I do wrong? Well, you didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah, you did. You posted.
Right. And I see people doing that all the time. It's like they're trying to beat their last score.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I got, 4,000 likes and I'm doing something wrong because this week I only got 3,997.
Oh, we're so fickle.
Exactly.
Oh, but it's fun. So let's really delve into this procrastination thing, because I know that forget about a contractor, everybody. I know there's things in my life that I'll put off, and I find that it's not as bad now as it used to be because I'm busier. So if I'm really busy, I sort of force myself to do things that's probably a training thing as opposed to before I would just put it off. And
Yes. There's basically 4 reasons why we as humans procrastinate. And we've all heard and I tell you the top 4 excuses. Well, I don't know how to do it. I haven't been trained. So they put it off. Well, you didn't tell me how you wanted it done, and I didn't want to get in there and mess it up. So I didn't do anything. I love that one. Yeah. Another one is, well, it's boring. It's not challenging enough. It doesn't excite me. Okay? And I always say, well, paying your taxes don't excite you, but you have to do it. And the other one is, and you get this a lot with millennials, I just don't feel like doing it. And then you get the ones that will say, which is number 4, is, why should I do this? Maybe someone else is better at doing it. And so we convince ourselves, number 1, I don't know how to do it. Number 2, it's not challenging enough. Number 3, I don't feel like doing it. So I'm waiting on this magical button that I'm going to push, and all of a sudden I'm going to be flooded with energy and excitement to do something. And it never comes. And then you have the last excuse where, well, I'm not skilled. Someone else is much better at doing this. And all of these become excuses rooted in an emotion called fear. Fear that if I do it and do it well, it will become a requirement. Both of us have had employees. And I never forget my first job. I was young, fresh out of college. And I'm working, I'm going fast, I'm trying to make a good impression. And all of a sudden, a very, well-seasoned employee can say, hey, young gun, slow down. You're making us look bad.
Yeah.
Because if the boss see you working that fast, then he's going to expect all of us
yeah, you become the
to
most
work
hated
that.
person there. Yeah, I've been there.
Yes.
I've done that. Yep.
And so what happens is we get accustomed to saying and tricking ourselves into saying, well, wait a minute, I don't feel like doing it. Someone else is better at doing it, and I don't want to mess it up. Or we resort to early childhood of our parents telling us to do something like clean your room, do the dishes. I don't want to do it. I want to go outside and play. Mm-hmm. And so all of those come up. And in the book, I talk about a concept called FIST, FIST. And what that stands for is all of us look at the facts and we turn the facts into our own personal interpretation. And I'll give you an example.
Oh, that's interesting.
And then we create a story, and then we end up justifying it as if it's truth. And I give you a classic one. I'm getting ready to take a trip to Florida, but I've never been on an airplane. But my wife said, no, we're going. We've already paid. And I'm like, but I've never flown. Why can't we just drive? Right? So the fact is, I'm afraid of what I don't know.
Right.
So I'm in the airport or on my way to the airport, and I hear a plane just went down over the Amazon. I'm like, oh my God, see there? That's why I don't fly. Planes are falling out the sky left and right. Did you just hear 10 planes went down in the Amazon? So now I begin to look at the fact, yes, a plane went down the Amazon. I'm going nowhere near the Amazon, but I began to interpret that one event and create a story. You see, this is why I don't do this, because I remember my good friend was on an airplane. He got delayed. The wheels fell off. And we turn those stories into our own personal reality or truth. And that's what happens with procrastination, is that we create what I call a fist. Because the reason I turned to the fist, my mother told me, a fist can neither receive nor give, because you're closed off to it. You are there pretty much in a position of defense, because most people, they put a fist up there in a defensive mode.
Right.
And again, it's based on taking a fact of what we need to do. Yes, I need to clean my room or wash my car or get rid of, 2 pairs of shoes so I can get 1 pair that I really want. But I'm going to create an interpretation. Okay, you want me to get rid of the shoes so that you can buy a boat. Now, what in the world is getting rid of 2 pairs of shoes and a boat? And I've heard couples come to me with these arguments. He won't allow me to pay, buy $120 pair of shoes or a purse, but he'll go over there and spend $1,500 on a game. And man, we do the same thing. We justify. Sure. Well, wait a minute. This is going to make me money. It's not a purchase. It's an investment.
I've been there. Come on.
And so that's the common reasons why we procrastinate.
Well, I'm sure, like you talked about before about, and the guy who procrastinated over signing a contract and sent it.
Yes.
And ended up sending it. And we do that in business all the time, where we'll have a customer that calls and complains or whines and grinds or whatever, and we just keep putting off, and actually they become, in a not so nice term, their enemy when we could have made them our friend. Yes. If we called them right back right away. And the same thing with with that guy with the contract. It's like, I kept putting it off, and ended up losing money on the deal. And we've all done that. But the key, I think, is how do we get to a point where we stop the procrastination and really move forward into making our lives more meaningful, because that's really what stopping procrastination is, because we put so much on hold.
Right. And what happens again when we create those stories I talked about, based on not truth but our own reality, people will tell you, well, it's true to me. There are no absolute truths. It's all relative. It's relative to my experience. Well, procrastination is the same. And the truth of the matter is, people love their comfort zone. The reason that people procrastinate if we cut through the chase, is that we want comfort, and anything that will take us out of our comfort zone, we will resist it. We go into that fifth principle, and we create these stories that become truth to us. Now, I'm going to share with you 3 strategies that your listeners can use that will break through any level of procrastination.
Awesome.
The first one is simply acknowledging that, you know what, I just don't want to do it. It's okay. The first thing a person has to do is like with an illness. Whether it's diabetes, alcoholism, you have to acknowledge what it is. And we end up in denial. We're like, well, I'm not procrastinating. I just don't want to do it right now. But once you begin to acknowledge what you are feeling, and here's the key, and this is tough a lot of time for men. Most of my clients, about 67%, 70% of my clients are females. And what I will hear from my female coaching clients versus men will tell me what they think. Women tend to tell me what they feel.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Oh.
And so what happens is I will ask a man, I will say, tell me what you feel. And he begins to say, well, what I think is, and I say, no, I want you to tell me what you feel. And the reason I do that is we feel deeper than what we could ever think. But we don't know how to describe, most men, what we're feeling.
Right.
And so the way that I get around that is I say, tell me 3 reasons why you don't want to do it. And you'll hear all these sort of excuses. And then I just say, well, why? And once you ask a series of what I call 3 to 5 whys, you get to the truth. Well, damn it, I just don't want to do it. Thank you for being honest. And so number 1 is to acknowledge what you're really feeling. The second is to change your perspective of how you see it. And I say, and I always would go and ask a person, I would say, what do you like to do? And I use golf. And I say, well, I'm not a golfer, but I've played a couple of rounds of golf, wasn't good at it, but I understand some of the concepts. I said, think of that task as you're on the range. And now you can decide, you know what? I can whack the ball, or maybe I might need to use a little finesse and a little skill. The point being is you have to have some type of strategy to attack your procrastination based on what you like. And so going back to the golf analogy, I would say think of what you don't like to do as something that's in the way of you making a putt or getting your ball off the tee or whatever it could be, any type of sport. And what would you do? And they begin to tell me all these interesting, creative strategies. And I say, okay, I want you to apply that to what it is you don't want to do and make it a game. Do you realize one of the most interesting concepts in engagement is called gamification, where you take something that you don't like to do and you turn it into a game, a word puzzle, because you trick the brain and say, well, I like games, so this is just a puzzle. The third thing is to do a little bit and put it away. It's what we call chunking.
Okay.
So number 1, acknowledge that you don't want to do it. Your truest and your deepest feeling. I just don't want to do it. Or I really don't know how to do it, Lyman. You asked me to put together a PowerPoint. I've never even turned on the computer and I'm afraid. Okay, thanks for being honest. Second is to look at it as a game, whatever your favorite game, football, wrestling, where we're going to body slam this procrastination. We're going to tackle it because now I'm using terms that causes their body to relax and they're familiar with it. So you're on offense, and this, whatever this task is on defense. So you have to have a strategy. You call a huddle. What's the game plan? You know, my son is a star football player. And I heard his coach say something. He said, football games are won an inch, a foot, a yard at a time. I said, wow, I love that because it's true. What we're trying to do is a blitz run. You're going to run all the way down into the end zone and throw it, catch the ball, touchdown. Well, that's great. It's exciting. But the truth of the matter is, it's a game of yardage.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's the way that you gamify it. And then the last part is a little at a time and leave it alone. And those are 3 strategies that I teach my clients. And I'm talking about people that consider themselves to be severe procrastinators. And when they begin to acknowledge what they're feeling, gamify it, and to chunk it away in small bits and pieces, they have achieved great success and said, my God, because I don't believe people really suffer from procrastination. What they really suffer from is a lack of a strategy to get their physiology and their psychology in alignment.
That's interesting. I like the way you said that. You know, it's a lack of a strategy, because I think that, you know, there's a lot of times that we get so overwhelmed. Like I was telling you, when I got home tonight, I had a half an hour, and I was gonna pay some bills, and I chose not to. I put it off for tomorrow, but mainly because I knew that I would, the way that I do everything, I just chart everything out, and I go through it, I write it down, and then I check it off. I mean, I do have a whole sheet, but it would probably take me more than 30 minutes, and I really didn't have time to play with it. So I'll do it first thing in the morning, because it's one of those things that, you know, it's going to come back to haunt you if you don't pay your bills. So that's not a big deal.
Right.
But I've been there too, you know, many, many years ago when I didn't have any money. So but it's a strategy. You know, how do I do this, and why do I want to do it? And I love the little chunking, you know, the little bits and pieces, because it's like eating that elephant. You know, I don't want to eat that thing. It's too darn big. But if you break it down, like you said, into little chunks and little pieces that are doable, I think that's an awesome way to work on it. And that's what we can do in our businesses, as we set our goals and do everything, because you're looking at the little pieces, or let's do it the other way. You're looking at the big piece, which is the elephant, and it could be your goal, it could be whatever you don't want to do, and then you're bringing it down into bite-sized pieces. And basically working it in reverse, really, and how to get it done.
Absolutely. And I give you an example. You can relate to this. My stepdad took me and my brother Robert and he was teaching us how to paint, but he didn't tell us how to paint. So we just throwing paint on a wall. And my dad came and made it. You know, we're about 10, 11 years old. My dad makes a big Z. Zip, 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 a big Z. I'm like, huh? And then he goes up and down. And the wall is covered. I'm like, what? That doesn't make sense.
Uh-huh.
He made a Z, and then he went vertical up and down, and didn't have paint everywhere. And he was sharing with us that he allowed us to get paint everywhere to show us that you could do it either the hard way, or you can do it the easy way, or the smart way, which will make it easier, save you time, and save you money.
Right.
It all comes back to what you said about strategy. The good thing is, and I love your quote, that everything in life prepares us for the now. Most of us have done things the hard way, the expensive way, the painful way. And I'm just someone to say, listen, would you consider doing it a better way that will save you time, energy, and money?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the other things you said about, you know, we all dislike being uncomfortable because nobody likes change. It's just that's one of those inherent things in us. Some people will embrace change, but most of us don't really like it because we like the easy stuff. We're going accustomed to doing this. And I went to a function last night. One of the coaches that I had about 5 years ago, they were having their 10-year anniversary. No, it's about less than about 3 years ago. And we were with them for 5 years. And so they go, we still use we tell you teach a lot of our clients. I go, I teach a lot of your clients. I said, how do you figure? So, well, I remember, in the first set of coaching classes that we went through, and Ford was saying, in order to change, you have to become uncomfortable. And I said, I guess I'm going to be uncomfortable the rest of my life, or I'm not going to grow.
Mm-hmm.
So every time I think about that, I think about, okay, when I'm comfortable, things just really don't seem right.
Right. But here's another way to think about it. Remember earlier I talked about is when your psychology and your physiology aligns. Mm-hmm. Because most of us operate from a position of pessimism. Because we've seen a lot of stuff. I believe when you're over the age of 40, you've heard.
Don't go there.
You've heard a lot. You just have, I remember being 25, and if someone was older than me, I believed it was gospel. Until I realized, man, they lied too. And so you can get sort of a tainted view of the world. And so whenever people talk about anything, no pain, no gain, I said, ooh, who wants that?
Yeah,
that's not attractive.
No.
So what I say is this. I say, what do you love to do? And people tell me all kind of things. And I said, but when you first tried it, what did it feel like? They said, well, it didn't feel comfortable. Mm-hmm. But, the more I did it, the better I got at it. And then I realized I really liked it. And so I will tell my coaching clients, I say, listen, let's not focus on the pain of getting there. Let's focus on the benefits and the end result. So it's sort of like in sales and marketing. If you focus on the features, you can get it in red, black, it comes with a heater. Well, okay, there's nothing that's going to differentiate you in the marketplace. But if I talk about what it will do for you, now all of a sudden you're like, well, I'm willing to go through a little bit of being uncomfortable if I'm going to get this result. And it's about boosting that energy level and allowing the picture that you create for yourself to be the motivator, and I use an example, and I don't know about you, Dave, but I remember when we had gym classes. It's amazing high schools don't even have gym anymore.
I know, it's crazy.
And you ever seen the kid that was on the monkey bars or the pull-up bars, and he's doing like 1, 2, and then when the girls walk in, he's like 20, 21.
It has nothing to do with ego.
Yes, right. But for men, it really does.
Oh, I know.
It really does. And so remember I said 60 to 70% of my clients are women. When I'm dealing with men, it's all about ego. They're looking at how is this going to make me faster, make me more money? How is this going to boost my productivity? Okay, and they're not really interested in a lot of the strategies that are more emotional based.
I was going to say, I thought you were going to say the fluff.
Right, what I call the foo-foo.
The foo-foo, yeah, but for women, that's and not to be demeaning to women because that's not at all. They're emotionally based, where guys are logically based, and that's the way God made us. So, and that's just and people need to recognize that, and so. What it has done is I can take the same principles, but I have to package it different to make it palatable to the audience that I serve. Mm-hmm. That's why I don't have any one shoe fits all.
And I think that's the problem with a lot of so-called coaches and gurus is that they try to take a one-size-fit-all approach. And what I share with a lot of my coaching clients and even my fellow coaches is you have to look at the person as an individual. Mm-hmm. And I give an example. In the book, I talk about how to organize your workspace based on your personality type.
Absolutely.
For example, a person who is what we call a powler, they got piles of stuff everywhere. They will never become a filer because in their mind, out of sight, out of mind. So what we create is I say, well, what if we create bins? You can keep your piles, but we just put them in bins. Oh, yeah, okay.
The bins are mini garbage pails, right?
Right. And they like that. It don't matter. But it's what you put in them, and they put a little labels. Well, I have others that they don't like paper. So we create a system called scan and shred. Because they want everything electronic. They can have it remotely. They can pull it up.
Wow.
Well, I have other clients. Exactly. Then I have other ones that they prefer color-coded files. They have a red one, a green one, a blue one. And so, again, it's all about customizing that's going to make it easy. Remember, we don't like change.
Right.
And so the key to focus and what focus-driven or living a focus-driven lifestyle is really about is being present and understanding what you are focusing on, which is defined as directing your attention towards something, right, a focal point, that you are present and you direct it to that. And when people understand what focus is and what it's not, they begin to grow and expand and get out of their comfort zone and don't even know it. I go back to the example of the guy, that type A person, he's arguing with me. This stuff ain't going to work. I read about this. This is just a bunch of fluff. Oh, it ain't going to ever work. I'm just ADHD. I'm a type A personality. And I said, I'm going to give you a challenge. Well, he liked that.
Yeah.
I'm using a language that he understands. I said, what if I can increase your sales by 20% in the next 30 days? You can't do that. I said, I bet you. He said, well, how are you going to do it? I said, all I want you to do is do one thing. Just do one thing, but do it exactly as I tell you.
Yeah, uh-huh.
He said, okay. Because if I had given him 5 things or 7 things, it wouldn't have worked. All I asked him to do is, all I want you to do is focus on encouraging your sales force. Don't beat them up. Allow them to make a mistake. And when they make a mistake, allow them to fix the mistake.
Yeah.
He said, I'm going to lose money. I said, you said you would do it. That's all I want you to do. The amazing thing happened.
Yeah.
His sales force thought the guy was getting ready to die because he's always been like a little tyrant. But sales went through the roof. They actually jumped up 30% because he recognized he was nice, he was polite, and when they made a mistake, he allowed them to take ownership and fix it. And the problem that he was making, he would see them heading towards the end of the cliff, and he would jump in and save it, and and was actually running the team into the ground. That they felt paralyzed, that they couldn't do anything.
Right.
Once he exactly. But once he backed up, now the first time people were like, "Ooh, you ready to get it?" And I mean, he was biting his nails, but he did what I said. And then all of a sudden he started seeing sales. People felt relaxed. People felt comfortable. People made less mistakes. Sales went through the roof. He came back to me and said, I think you hypnotized me.
Well, the cool thing about that is just that one little thing that you told him to do freed up his life on what he doesn't have to do to make his sales team better.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to be involved initially.
No.
I mean, he does have to be involved, but it has to be in a positive way, not like he was before and trying to save everything because they weren't capable. If they weren't capable, he shouldn't have hired them.
He shouldn't have hired them. Absolutely. And the interesting that happened from that is that they had ideas that they had tried to present to him, and he would fall back on, no, no, no. I built this company from the ground and I did it this way. Mm-hmm. And he was trying to create little clones of himself. But the problem was he didn't hire himself. And I said, well, here's the problem. You hired what you hated, but you expect them to act like you.
Yeah.
Because what people tend to do, you hire a hiring manager, right? And you say, I need somebody that's good at sales, blah, blah, blah. Well, the hiring managers, and I've been in HR for 20 plus years, they tend to look at the position and hire based on the position and not on personality. This owner was looking at personality and not their qualifications. And he had some of the people who performed the most were the people that he thought really was underperformers. And the ones that he assumed would do well, they had no desire to do the things the way that he was doing it. But when he allowed them to be themselves, to express what they were feeling, they were relaxed, they were comfortable, they were building relationships, and not only did their sales increase, but repeat customers doubled.
Novel idea. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. That's really awesome.
Just one thing. Like you said, how do you get an elephant? One bite at a time. Just doing one thing.
Yeah. The one thing. That's pretty cool. Hey, this has really been awesome. We're getting close to the end of our time here. Is there any one last minute thing or one thing that you've had in the back of your mind that you wanted to share with our audience?
Yes, I will simply say this, is that regardless of what stage of life you're in, if you're just beginning your career or you in transition, you're thinking about doing something else, it's never too late to adopt a new way of looking at things. I'm not asking you to change anything. All I'm asking you to do is to consider a new way of looking at it. That's all. A turtle will see a tree differently than a giraffe, but they're both looking at a tree. The question is, what is your perspective at what you're looking at? And are you willing to consider a different perspective? That's what I would like to leave with your audience.
Cool. That is so cool. Well, I mean, how does our audience get in touch with you? I know we've talked about you doing coaching and your book. So give us how we can get in touch with you. And
yes, it is extremely. I always say I'm probably the easiest person in the world to find and to locate. And what they can do, they can go to my website, which is Focus, FOCUSED, driven, DRIVEN.com. They can call me, area code 937-409-6866. You can Google me. My books is on Amazon. And my name, Lyman, Lyman, Lyman. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. And real easy to find. Cool. So they can call me. They can go to my website. I'm on Facebook. So I'm real easy to find.
Cool. And we'll put all that in the show notes, too. Lyman, this has really been a pleasure. I really had fun talking with you, and the content of doing all the things that we want to put off, like procrastinating, is a really great topic, and I love the way that you just told us how to change.
Thank you. I had a lot of fun. It's been a great conversation.
Again, I want to thank you for joining us and investing your time with us today. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode, and if you did, go to iTunes and give us a shout-out. You can also go to our website, www.contractorsecretweapon.com, and check out today's episode and leave us a comment in the bottom of the page. And if you haven't gotten your 15 secret weapon strategies to getting higher-end customers, get it while you're at the website. Also, I want to thank again our sponsors for keeping this podcast alive for your profit-making pleasure. And so go be profitable this week. Work smarter, not harder, and learn how to leverage your time and your knowledge so that you can be more profitable. Again, see you next week.
Thanks for joining us for another weekly episode of the Contractor's Secret Weapon podcast with Dave Negri. We would love to hear your comments about this episode, so visit us online at www.contractorsecretweapon.com and let us hear your thoughts. If you are listening via iTunes, please leave us a positive review. The more positive reviews we receive, the more other contractors will benefit from this show. Thank you, and see you next time here on the Contractor's Secret Weapon Podcast.